Hey, everybody. Welcome to In Broad Daylight. I'm Adam Todd Brown. This week's episode of You Don't Even Like This Show, available everywhere podcasts are at, was about a series of police shootings in small town Crookston, Minnesota, that aren't getting any press attention outside of the area where they happened. We're going to keep that same theme going on this week's episode of this show. And don't worry, I don't mean we are just talking about police shootings. Not that there aren't enough of them at any given time to fill multiple episodes. What I mean is that I'm going to talk about a bunch of news stories from around the country that haven't received the attention they deserve. And right up top, I want to apologize for completely dropping the ball on this first story by not telling you about it back when it happened in November of last year. That's when the Ohio State Supreme Court suspended the law license of a Noble County attorney named Jack Blakesley. His offense? Tossing poop-filled Pringles cans in the parking lot of a victims advocacy group called Haven of Hope. The organization's executive director, Michelle Wilkinson Carpenter, saw Blakesley throw the can from his vehicle as he drove by. It landed by her car. Identifying Blakesley wasn't hard, seeing as how he chose Haven of Hope as his target, because he got a kick out of pranking victim advocates he knew he'd be seeing in court 15 minutes later. Can you imagine? You're at your place of employment and someone you recognize from work just randomly tosses a shit-filled Pringles can at your feet. That's going to make a person ask themselves a lot of questions. Chief among them being, what did I do to deserve that? Well, rest easy knowing he wasn't targeting anyone specifically. Here's a quote from a local news article about the incident. Blakesley claimed he was not targeting anyone, but had a habit of defecating in Pringles cans and randomly throwing them from his car as he drove. End quote. And now I have a lot of questions. Did he shit into the cans while driving also? If so, I need a 6-episode Netflix documentary about this fella because that is a feat. Also, were there still Pringles in the can? If so, are we talking full can, or did he eat some first to make extra room? Or was he just throwing all those innocent and delicious Pringles away? Or maybe he donated them to a local food bank that doesn't ask questions if a person shows up with a 10,000 count bag of loose Pringles. That would be a nice silver lining, you know? Also, what flavor were the Pringles? Not a single article I've read has mentioned that. And that is just sloppy reporting. I'm sorry. For reasons I will never understand, after being caught chucking this one can of shit Pringles at a lady, Blakesley admitted to having done the same thing at least 10 times in a variety of locations. His reason? To blow off steam. I know that sounds like a dad joke someone would write about this story. It's not. That's a quote. Here's another quote. The evidence in this case shows that despite societal standards of cleanliness and decorum, Blakesley failed to control his own bizarre impulses to place feces-filled cans out in public for unsuspecting people to find. End quote. That is a quote from the Supreme Court decision. A learned man or woman of justice had to write that. There's one last detail here that makes this man seem like even more of a lunatic than he already must to anyone listening to this who doesn't habitually chuck shit-filled Pringles cans at the feet of charity workers. Here's the quote. On November 30th, 2021, the day of Wells's pretrial hearing, respondent deposited his feces into an empty potato chip can before leaving his home. He did not put a lid on the can. End quote. What? This man lived 20 miles away from where he dropped this shit can. 20 miles he drove in rush hour traffic, no less. This was 8 a.m. He was trying to get to work, all while a Pringles can full of steamy turds just sits unopened in the car. Oh, in case you're wondering, the Wells referenced in that quote about not putting a lid on the can is the guy he was representing in court who was on trial for murder. Like I said, this all came to light last November. I'm bringing it up today because great news, Jack Blakesley's license to practice law has been reinstated. It was initially suspended for a year, but 6 months of that was stayed for unexplained reasons. So, if you need a lawyer who's willing to chuck a can of scat at the person advocating for the victim of your crime, call Jack Blakesley today. And against all odds, we are not done talking about the Ohio State Supreme Court. When they aren't tied down with trivial things like suspending shit-slinging attorneys, they sometimes weigh in on subjects that actually matter to people, like whether boneless chicken wings can have bones in them or not. You see, in April 2016, a man named Michael Berkheimer was eating at a restaurant called Wings on Brookwood in Butler County, Ohio. Tell him in broad daylight sent you. Michael was thrown down on a plate of boneless garlic parmesan wings when he swallowed and felt what he says seemed like a piece of meat going down the wrong pipe. But after not being able to keep food down and running a fever a few days later, he went to the ER where doctors discovered an infection caused by a 5-centimeter length of chicken bone lodged in his throat. A Freedom of Information Act request has been filed to determine how long that is in a real measurement, like inches, but authorities had yet to respond by deadline. As you'd expect, Berkheimer filed a lawsuit on account of how he swallowed a bone while eating boneless chicken wings. Seems like a slam dunk case to me, but I'm only a lawyer in that I've seen every episode of The Good Wife and The Good Fight, both. So sometimes my instincts are wrong. And sure enough, at every level of the justice system, the courts have sided with the restaurant owners and their suppliers. So it eventually landed in front of the Ohio State Supreme Court, and they also sided with restaurant owners in a 4-3 ruling that one dissenting judge called Jabberwocky. The ruling stated that since bones are a natural part of a chicken, right, consumers should expect there to be bones even when the menu says boneless. This is a quote from one of the dissenting judges. The question must be asked, does anyone really believe that the parents in this country who feed their young children boneless wings or chicken tenders or chicken nuggets or chicken fingers expect bones to be in the chicken? Of course they don't. When they read the word boneless, they think that it means without bones, as all sensible people do. That is Justice Michael Donnelly. On the bright side, if this is a ruling that impacts you in some way, take solace in the fact that wings are way better bones in them. Ohio is kind of doing you a favor. Hey, remember Puddle of Mud? They were a 2000s rock band that could best be described as Nirvana, but make it suck. They had that She Hates Me song that all the Kid Rock types loved a whole bunch. They're still active and touring, even though over the past decade, frontman Wes Scantlin has been arrested a whole bunch of times. DUI in 2015, vandalism in 2016, attempting to board a flight from Los Angeles to Texas with a BB gun in 2017. And he was arrested again last week in beautiful and sunny Burbank, California. He was initially pulled over for a traffic violation, but refused to leave his car. At that point, police became aware of an outstanding warrant Scantlin had for possession of a weapon at an airport. How does that work? Don't you just get arrested for that on the spot? Does TSA just let you skedaddle with your gun back out into the community? I don't know. Whatever the case, police tried using pepper spray to get Scantlin to exit the vehicle. They pepper sprayed me! La 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 la! That didn't work. So then Scantlin barricaded himself in the car, at which point SWAT team members showed up and fired non-lethal pepper balls at him to end the standoff. In case you're wondering, yes, the police are that patient with everyone in Los Angeles. It really is a liberal paradise here. No word on what, if any, impact Scantlin's arrest will have on the band's scheduled appearance at the Tacos and Tequila Music Festival in Lubbock, Texas. Stick within broad daylight for updates as they arrive. Moving on. You know that thing people always say about how California is going to fall into the ocean someday? It's finally happening. In the not poor city of Rancho Palos Verdes, landslides have been a huge problem since at least last year, when one in July sent a whole bunch of houses tumbling down a hillside. Water main breaks and gas leaks have become a common occurrence in the city ever since. The land movement has become so severe that 135 homes in Rancho Palos Verdes have had their gas service shut down. For how long? Oh, forever. Like forever and ever and ever. The gas company is just calling it a day on servicing Rancho Palos Verdes ever again. Because you can't really risk having a bunch of gas pipelines pumping underground when the land is just sliding all to and fro. Ditto for electricity. Residents haven't lost that yet, but when SoCal Edison was asked about the possibility, they responded with a firm, yeah, maybe. If that happens, things are going to get significantly worse. The city uses a system of underground pumps to expel groundwater, which is a major contributor to the land movement. And of course, those pumps run on electricity. Electricity has already been cut to 3 homes in a neighborhood where land movement is happening at a rate of up to a foot per week. If that doesn't sound like a lot, look at anything outside your window that is permanently in place. And now imagine you looked again a week and a half later and it's 10 feet closer. On the bright side, if power is cut off, residents will have the option of installing solar panels for electricity, and gas appliances can be replaced. Also, there's no indication that they're going to lose water service. That's a plus. So people will probably be able to stay in their homes. Why you would want to stay in a home that slides a little closer to the ocean with each passing day is beyond me, but to each their own, you know? Hey, Salt Lake City, Utah, are you looking to spend anywhere from $60 to $275 to listen to an album that was released for free to the whole entire internet a few days ago? If so, you're in luck, because this Friday, you can do exactly that when rappers Kanye West, currently known as Ye, and Ty Dolla $ign host a listening experience for their new joint album, Vultures 2. It's the only listening experience announced in the United States so far. So don't miss it. Otherwise, you'll have to go listen to it in Taiwan or South Korea, and that's going to cost way more. If $60 to $275 sounds like a lot of money to spend to listen to an album that the rest of us losers will have to listen to for free, rest easy knowing Ye and Ty Dolla $ign will totally be there in person. Maybe? The Salt Lake Tribune article about it seems unsure of that part, but does mention that the description for a Vultures 1 listening party in New York described it as an event that, quote, marks a historic moment as attendees will listen to the album together with the artists and album collaborators, end quote. So, yes, the 2 masked gentlemen will almost certainly be Kanye West and Ty Dolla $ign. Also, what they're describing is just a listening party. Those have been around for a million years. That's not historic. It's mentioned that Ye previously held one of his Sunday service experiences in downtown Salt Lake City back in 2019. If you're wondering why he likes the place so much, it's probably because it's the kind of city where the news outlets put the words extreme rhetoric in quotes when mentioning his history of legitimately extreme rhetoric. Whether they're the kind of city that's dumb enough to pay concert money to listen to a Spotify playlist remains to be seen. And hey, that's our episode. For even more local news you can use, check out the podcast version of today's episode at all the podcast places. It is jam-packed with extra stories and content. And thanks. I love you. Goodbye.